She had always been careful, precise, and meticulous. Working at one of the city's most prestigious firms wasn't something she took lightly. Every glance, every conversation, every email mattered. She had learned early on that the corporate world was unforgiving, that mistakes could define reputations overnight. She preferred to remain unnoticed, moving quietly through the corridors, keeping her head down, doing her work, and avoiding unnecessary attention. Yet that morning felt different. There was a nervous flutter she couldn't shake, a tension that made each step toward the elevator feel heavier than usual. She carried a stack of files, her hands gripping them like a lifeline. The familiar hum of the elevator greeted her as she pressed the button for the 12th floor, trying to steady her racing thoughts. Then the doors opened, and he stepped in. The CEO. Tall, confident, with an aura that commanded every room he entered. She had seen him in meetings, on video calls, in passing in the lobby, but now, confined in this small space, he seemed almost larger than life. Her stomach flipped. She wasn't ready for this. Not now, not here. "Good morning," she managed, her voice soft, almost trembling. "Good morning," he replied, his eyes briefly scanning the elevator before settling on her. Heading somewhere important. His tone was casual, yet the intensity in his gaze made her heartbeat accelerate. She swallowed hard, trying to appear composed. Then, before she could stop herself, the words slipped out. I've never, before." Her confession was barely audible, a whisper meant to disappear into the elevator's hum. But it didn't. Her cheeks burned immediately, and for a heartbeat, she wished she could rewind time. He froze mid-step, surprised, eyebrows lifting slightly. The elevator seemed to slow, the walls closing in, each floor passing by like an eternity. She wished she could hide behind her files, but the moment was already past the point of return. "I see," he said carefully, his voice calm, betraying only a flicker of surprise. He glanced at the panel of buttons, then back at her, trying to process the admission. For a few seconds, silence stretched between them. The usual hum of office life, distant phones, footsteps, the faint clatter of keyboards, felt like it belonged to another world. They were suspended in a fragile, private bubble, a strange mixture of tension, embarrassment, and unexpected intimacy. He began, then paused, weighing his words. "This is unexpected." Her lips pressed together, heart pounding. She had never imagined that a personal confession could land like this, that it would elicit anything but awkwardness or discomfort. Yet here he was, patient, observing, rather than judging. Then, unexpectedly, he pressed the button to hold the elevator. "Wait," he said. "I need to handle something. Stay here." Before she could respond, he stepped out. The doors closed, leaving her alone in the softly lit elevator. Her mind raced. What was happening? Why now? Why him? She clutched her files tighter, feeling a mix of embarrassment, vulnerability, and curiosity. Minutes passed. She tried to calm her heartbeat, reminding herself that this was just a professional environment, that this conversation, awkward as it was, should not change anything. But deep down, she knew something already had. The doors opened again, and he returned, slightly disheveled. His tie was loosened, his jacket unbuttoned, and there was a palpable urgency in his step. "I've cancelled all my meetings for the rest of the morning," he said, eyes fixed on hers. "Some things deserve attention over schedules." She blinked, flustered. I didn't mean." He raised a hand, stopping her. "I know. It's fine." His voice was calm but carried a warmth that made her chest flutter unexpectedly. The elevator continued its ascent, each floor a slow, deliberate marker. She felt the weight of her confession, but surprisingly, it no longer seemed entirely burdensome. There was something about his patience, the calm understanding in his eyes, that made her feel seen in a way she hadn't felt before. "Sometimes," he continued softly, "honesty, even when uncomfortable, changes the way we see people. Behind the titles, the deadlines, the meetings, there are human beings, full of vulnerabilities, strengths, and truths. Moments like this remind us of that." She nodded slowly, realizing that she had never thought about her confession in terms of its impact beyond herself. For the first time, she saw it as a small act of courage, one that mattered not just for her, but for the space they shared, however brief it was. The elevator slowed to her floor. She stepped out, heart still racing, unsure whether to thank him, apologize, or simply retreat. He gave her a small nod, a gesture of acknowledgement that didn't require words. The office felt different now. The usual hum of activity, the constant pressure, the unspoken hierarchies, it all seemed slightly muted. Her own steps felt lighter, more purposeful, yet tinged with a strange, unidentifiable anticipation. Over the next few hours, she went through her tasks with a new awareness. She noticed details she hadn't before, the small smiles exchanged in passing, the quiet diligence of coworkers, the way minor acts of kindness could shape the day. But more than that, she carried the memory of the elevator, of the CEO's reaction, of the unexpected patience and understanding. For him, the day was equally altered. Canceling meetings was unusual, almost unheard of. But he reflected on the confession, on the moment, and found himself appreciating the rare honesty, the vulnerability of someone willing to speak a truth despite potential embarrassment. It reminded him of his own humanity, of the importance of connection beyond schedules and decisions. Throughout the office, whispers and glances hinted at subtle shifts, new energy, quiet attentiveness, a sense of stories unfolding in corners, in hallways, in the unspoken moments between people. The elevator confession, simple and fleeting, had caused ripples in ways neither of them could have predicted. By late afternoon, she returned to her desk, a faint smile lingering, reflecting on the courage it had taken to speak. She realized that vulnerability could be a quiet power, a bridge between people who otherwise remained strangers in the same space. And somewhere above, the CEO glanced at his calendar, then closed it, a thoughtful expression on his face. The day had shifted, subtly but irrevocably, because of a few whispered words, a small confession, and the unexpected understanding it had evoked. The office continued around them, but for both, the memory of that moment lingered. It wasn't just about schedules or roles anymore. It was about honesty, about human connection, about the quiet courage to be oneself in a world that often demanded otherwise. She left the office that evening with a lightness in her step, a heart more open, and a mind filled with possibilities she hadn't considered that morning. For him, the lesson remained in the pause he had taken, the cancelled meetings, and the silent acknowledgement that even the briefest moments could carry profound meaning. In the weeks that followed, their interactions carried a subtle shift. The quiet smiles, the careful attentiveness, the moments of understanding, small, unspoken, yet deeply significant. Each carried forward the echo of that confession, a reminder that courage, honesty, and vulnerability could create connections in places least expected. Life at the office returned to its usual pace, yet for them, nothing was quite the same. They had shared a moment that neither could erase, a fleeting yet powerful recognition of the human heart behind professional facades. And in that, they found a story worth remembering, a story whispered in an elevator, that forever altered the rhythm of their days.